into this session. It's my pleasure to introduce Paul Zeitz. Paul's expert, he's our expert witness this afternoon in the area of problem solving in Excel, the use of Excel and computer applications. He's from the University of San Francisco, where he's an associate professor and has been there for quite some time now. He's a publisher of problem solving textbooks and also Excel textbooks. And so that is sufficient introduction.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. So before we begin, and I put that emphasis on we because I'm really not planning to do a lot of demonstrating for you unless you prefer that. And you get a sense of my audience. How many of you are truly beginners and you've never used Excel before? Okay. How many of you have used it like as a spreadsheet to do grading? How many of you have used it to teach statistics? Okay, so with the true beginners, I'll try to give you more individual help. The purpose of this session is for you to really just go crazy and learn as much as you can in an hour. Get a lot of practice, and I can help you. I should say I'm not an expert. I've never read an Excel manual. It's not from cover to cover. I've looked at little bits of it. I also can never understand the health advice from online help, pretty much. But what I am an expert in is problem solving, and I can give you one minute advice about problem solving, which is just don't give up. And then the other thing is don't go crazy over it. I always tell my students if they come in and say, I spent 10 hours on this problem, and they want sympathy, and I'll say, well, you're stupid. Why didn't you stop after an hour and get help? But the idea is to have the right balance of not giving up and asking for help when you need it. So don't give up, but I'm around to help you. And also a little bit of inspiration. I was getting dressed in a hotel this morning and turned on CNN, and at the bottom they give little news headlines, and they said that an 81-year-old man landed an airplane without any flying experience because the pilot died. So if this 81-year-old guy can do that, you can learn a lot of Excel in an hour. I hope also the purpose for this is a plug for Excel as I think a really fantastic teaching aid in statistics. And my next session, an hour from now, will focus on that more specifically with a lot more stuff. Okay, first you got to get your. I'm assuming that you all know how to use Windows and toolbars and things like that. Which you should have Excel running on your machine. If not, I can help you get it running. And what you need to do is get the appropriate file. It's called Beginners, and the folder that it's in is on page 2 where it says Get Oriented. But that thing in the box is wrong. Don't go to Sites, but go to the M drive and then go to Courses, Math, Beyond Formula, and then click on Excel. And you should see right at the top the file called Beginner.xls. So if you could get to this point here, let's do that. What I'm going to do is start you getting oriented and then give you about 5 to 10 minutes of just experimentation with me helping you out, and then we'll regroup and move on to some other things. The folder is beyond bin 4 by BYND 4. On page 2, it's exactly the same as what's in here, except instead of Sites, it's Excel. So that's the path. So you go to the M drive, then go to the Courses folder, then the MTH folder, then BYNDF or M folder.
It's the same path I just gave you on that blue sheet.
Yeah.
Blue sheet?
You have to go on, look in, under My Documents, and go down to M.
So do users that I'm here, and then click on Courses.
Double click.
Here, I'll do it from scratch here. So you go open, and then what you'll see is something that looks like this. You look at the M drive, and that's your first place to go.
That's not what's.
See, it says D users on ECC3, and then in parentheses it says
Go down 4 lines, see where it says D users.
Believe it or not, I do.
Click on it, leave it quick, I don't know. Click. Yep, now double click on courses.
Okay.
Double click on the second column halfway down this map, PH. Double click on it. Double click on Beyond Form, second one in the first column. And now double click on Excel.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Some of your screens are set so they don't quite match up with the picture that I'm showing here, and to save you some time, Angel? You go down at the bottom here,
Click
this
on the
little monitor icon, and
Yeah.
you press on it, and then what you want to pick is 800 by 600, okay? Which I have on my machine, and you should put it on your machine, and you'll get the same picture as me. So you go down there, click, and select 800 by 600. Try that.
Can you do that at any point?
Yeah, I think you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right there, the monitor. And then just like 800, 600.
See the monitor, picture the monitor down below that thing, right hand corner.
Okay, so we all have this, pretty much this picture here.
No, you missed it.
Okay, let me babble for a little bit, and then I want you to read the green stuff and work at your own pace for a little while.
Just click there, now. Click on the one below with the X, the check mark. You keep it wrong, you take down the little blue line.
What's happening over?
Slightly off of the.
Okay, so don't worry too much about things like screen displays. Let's start talking about Excel. Okay, the reason why, in my opinion, Excel is not only good but it's really great, is because you're able to handle lots and lots of data and do experimentation quickly. I don't think that the computer can teach anybody anything, but experimentation can teach you a lot of things. And as statistics teachers, if we want our students to learn concepts, the way they learn it is not by us explaining it, but it's by them discovering it as much as possible. And the more experimentation they can do, where they can understand the experimentation, the better. And so situations where you have data, this is just sort of silly data, as well as graphs of the data that are easy to make. And when I say easy, I mean it can be done in seconds. And also, most importantly, graphs where the data is the graphical representation of the data adjusts instantaneously to the data itself. For example, if I were to click on how many resolutions were kept in 1994, which is right here, it's the number 4, and change it to 14, then instantly the charts change. Okay. One of the most important things when you're learning new software is learning how to undo your mistakes. Okay. So the most important thing to remember, if you do something wrong and you want to undo it, you go to the Edit menu and click on Undo, or if you remember, just think of my last name, go Control-Z. That's usually a typical Microsoft undo, Control-Z. And then it goes back to where you go. Or let's say you started typing something and you realize, oh, I don't want to type that. I don't even want to hit the Enter key because that's going to be stupid. Just hit the Escape key at the top left, and that is sort of the important key. At the bottom of page 2, in that box, I explain those things as well. So again, I'm going to just talk about this from a total beginner point of view. If you're a little bored, you can always read on it and work at your own pace. But the Excel screen is this two-dimensional screen like this, and the way Excel is, the file that you open called beginner.xls is what's called a workbook. And workbooks are organized into worksheets. And this is the silly data worksheet. See the little thing down there? The silly data worksheet. Then there's the professor salary worksheet, the animals worksheet, the crime worksheet. This has 4 worksheets. So the Excel environment is one of worksheets put into a workbook. And each worksheet is organized in a two-dimensional way. way where you have these individual little blocks here are called cells, and each cell has an address. If you're observant, you'll notice that as I move the mouse and click, at the top left here, it tells me what address we're at. You see here it says A2? But that's the address of the cell that's selected. The cell that we opened with is I think 19. The resolution is this cell here, which is B5, and over here it says its contents. Its contents is just the number 1994. Likewise, this is just data. Here's some more data. But what's good about Excel is you don't just put data on, you also combine data with formulas. So for example, this cell here, instead is not the data 0.8, but is the formula equals D5 over C5. Now, if you want to see this bigger, we can zoom the screen, say to 200, and you can also take a cell and double click on it, and you'll see its formula. And it's color coded, so it tells you what things to refer to. You might want to try that. Try zooming the screen. So I select cell E5 with the mouse move and click. Zoom the screen to 200%. And then double click this cell and you can see what's in it. And now if you don't do it, and now to get out of where you are, you're in the middle of sort of fiddling with the cell, and we want to go back to just seeing what the cell's value is, hit the escape key. Because you're in the middle of the cell. When you hit the escape key, you get back to 80%. I'm going to unzoom, go back to 100% so I can see more stuff. And do a little bit more sort of just moving around. Excel is really quite an easy program to use once you get past the basic things about selecting data and moving data and changing data. A lot of it is like, say, using Word, but there are a few peculiarities, and I'll do a couple myself, and then you just need to play around at your own pace. But one example, let's say I would like to select all of this data. Well, the typical thing you do is you select the first part, and notice what the mouse cursor looks like. It's a white cross, okay? And then I just sort of drag, and it's still a white cross, and I let go. And that's something you're used to from selecting lots of stuff in old standard programs. Just click and drag, okay? On the other hand, let's say that I click the cell, and I move the cursor to the edge, and it becomes an arrow, a white arrow. And now if I press the mouse button down and drag, and you try doing this too, I drag it over there, I made it physically move. Okay, and I don't really want to do that. I want it to go back. Well, I'll just undo what I did with Control-C. So see if you all can do that. Just grab some data, move it away from where it was, and then Control-C. The way to do it is you select it, and then move the mouse to the edge of it until you get a white arrow. Then drag, and you can just drag it anywhere. Control-Z undoes what you do. Or you might want to be a little daring, and you should try to be daring. A good thing to ask is, how can I screw up? Always try to ask yourself, how can I screw up, and then do it, and then get out of it. So, for example, I'll move this over and say, how about I'll move it over here and mess up those percentages? Just see what happens. Just be a little constructive. And luckily for you, Microsoft figures you're going to be an idiot, and they have idiot proofing, and they ask, do you really want to replace the contents of the destination cells? Or we could have been a total idiot. We could try doing that, and then say, okay, and then think, oh no, that was a mistake. I'll undo it. So that undo key usually works, and even if you do something stupid, and you're going to do stupid. The more you do stuff, the more stupid things you're going to do. So get used to it. It's fun. Okay, what I would like to do is, I want to shut up now, and I'd like you to take 5 minutes or so and turn to page 3 on this, and to mess around. I'll just do some of the activities there. Just take 5 minutes and I'll help you out, especially if you've never used Excel. Who's the total versions? 1, 2? Okay, so you two, I'll 3. So I'll help you guys, especially if you need it, but otherwise just mess around for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and learn some things about using formulas and making charts, which is core of Excel. Yeah. Okay, right. Oh, yeah. And it is incredible. Okay, so first of all, wait, we're going to use formulas for cells from data. Data is a number. Put in one of these cells which has a formula.
If I see you see me,
And notice that you also see on the pure sugar by there. Notice begins with the equal sign.
But I have,
So that's the key. The formulas are the equal sign. Okay, and so let's say you want to get, let's say you actually want to do exactly. Let's give you some data. All right, well, so you don't need to scale because you're in the middle of all of the stores. All right, well, let's say you just want to do the average number of resolutions. And logically, let's put a Z cell on the middle. So it's cell D, D9. All right, so actually, let's put resolutions in. This is the instructor. Go there. And actually, go to the left. Just remember, just write type the word average or mean. All right, hit return so that you realize you're done. So now click on the cell you want. And you can support this with the sign. Then you can do right there, just start typing the sign. Okay, and the way you do an average formula is with the word average. So type the word average. So it doesn't matter whether it's caps or not. Okay, and it's a function, so it has parentheses. Average parentheses, and then parentheses, and then you're going to have to put something in parentheses. Well, what is it you want to put in parentheses? It's all data. Okay? So you need to know how Excel refers to that. And what it is the data from C4, C5 to C8, C5, C5, colon C5, colon C8, and then close parentheses. Okay, now if you hit the enter, you look at it. You actually typed in, you don't click on this C4 to C8, but it didn't matter because the average of a piece of text was now it's a little hard to we're running out of space. Why don't you drag and move this chart out this? Why don't you drag it out this way? You click on it, and then you just try to drag it. Yeah, that's the best. Okay. Right now go back to the cell you just did. So that's the one right there. And now move the mouse to the lower right hand corner. So it becomes a black cross. And now you do is a black cross right. So press and drag it. Yes, we put it to do. It's really smart. And we double click on it to see what it's going to see the average equals it. And now notice down here with things like I wanted to not do this, so I'm just going to click, figure out getting rid of it, and now it's messing it up. So what do you do? What do you do to get rid of this stuff? So I'm trying to cancel those two. Control C, I haven't actually done it actually. I control C my way. Yeah, you did work, but it goes back to, it's still, so you have to do it twice. Or no, it's still not, escape, I can just guess. In the middle of something, you just escape. After you've done it, use control C. So, there's other ways of selecting data. This is all that you do here. I'm just shut up and let you play around to see what you get used to stuff. But another way to select data is you can select the data even before you go through the mouse. So try to do a few of these things and you'll get good bets. Oh, yeah, you do exactly the same way. You can also do the average of non-contiguous things with a column.
Black arrow.
Excuse me? Did I say black arrow? Oh, okay. It should be a white arrow, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, white cross, white arrow, black cross. Sorry. It's not a typo, it's a bingo. Yeah, I don't, or maybe it was a black arrow on the laptop. It was used to, like that, who knows, yeah. Probably just super.
See example?
Well, I'm just trying to see all I did.
Oh, yeah. Right. You know, I have to be frank, I've never inserted connotation, so I don't know. It's something I've never found useful. The more useful things that you can want for the source, not based on I guess it's actually every time I try using it, anyone who's used Word knows how to this stuff with Excel. The new thing with Excel is the idea of cell addresses and the idea of these three different kinds of things you can do for selecting physically doing this back loss strategy. So,
These graphs bring on the spreadsheet. Natural environment.
yeah. Well, I created, I did it all with the because of the nest, so it's really a back process. I'll demonstrate that. Where you can read. Basically, this is completely self-contained. It depends on how basketball or Okay, but actually type before we physically type before we so select the cell there, and then go back to this one. So you click on the cell, start, and since the formula will start, and you notice the one that is Is that right? Well, it's, right, I guess because you did reciprocal. The arrow keys as much as you want. So you can say, sign the word, that's correct, then you do the division symbol. And then move the mouse and click on yeah. Or you could use the arrow, you could with an arrow. Automatically, and then it's not about it until you get the end. So you get the key. So if you make a mistake at this point, you go escape. If you make a mistake after you get the key, then you can close it. And now oh, yes, it's, again, right, just so they try to, yeah. It's, or more appropriately, it's stolen from Macintosh, where you use it for yeah, so that way, at least you sort of know what to expect from these kind of software. Yeah. Excel's really written for math. I mean, people who are comfortable with algebra. You know, if you're comfortable with algebra, then That's a good thing to have, yeah. But you can do that with Excel. You can rank data. But you couldn't do graphic. You couldn't, that would be nice. Okay, why don't we continue, even if you're not done, because you shouldn't be completely done. You're going to need practice. If you want to do Excel stuff during this conference, I urge you to go to the next session and then to the Friday morning session to just get more practice. But I want to wrap up a little bit more about formulas and then go into the chart making, because that's the fun, really fun part. So if you could just let's move to a new worksheet just to change gears and look at some information that is sort of like pulse data for college students. It's the salaries of college professors. And I wrote down here median and mean. And this is average salaries in thousands in 1993 or 1992 or something like that. This is the worksheet professor salary. Yeah. So you move to the worksheet tab at the bottom.
You know, I did that, but when it came up, the stuff that we have on the right is a black square.
Oh well, but you got the data part.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, leave on the back. Yeah, try moving the mouse somewhere, just clicking it, and that works. Okay, a good thing is that there are four things you should try when something bad happens before you ask for help. One is if you're in the middle of typing, the escape key. If you're done typing, Control-Z. If that doesn't work, just try hitting the Enter key. Maybe the system is hung up because it's in the middle of something. And if that doesn't work, move the mouse somewhere else and click. So just to kind of clear its system. And those things usually work. If those don't work, it's something more weird. Okay, so some of you have already played around with things like median and mean, but let's look at how you do it in practice. A typical application, like if you're grading or for any kind of elementary statistical analysis, is you're going to have data in some fairly reasonable two-dimensional situation. So let's say we want to know the median assistant professor salaries in this list. By the way, the screen is split because it's longer than a screen length. And how that was done, this happens in some other Microsoft applications. I think you can move the mouse to the split itself until it becomes a little funny-looking thing. And then you can drag that funny-looking thing all the way to the top and it's gone. And now you have to retrieve it. Well, it's located up here. See how at the top of the scroll bar it's a little funny? Go there until you get that funny-looking cursor and then drag it. And then if you want to, or you can double-click. Select it, double-click. Or, if you want to, you can go to the window menu and look for split. And then you get horizontal as well as vertical splitting. I don't want vertical splitting. But anyway, make sure you can split and unsplit the screen. And when it's split, you usually want to take the bottom pane and drag it down to the bottom so that you can see the top and bottom of your data. For any data worth analyzing, you're usually going to need to split the screen. So, okay, so we have this data. We'd like to crunch it a little bit. So the appropriate cell for putting the median is row 52. So I click on the first row here, and I type the formula. Well, how do I know what formula to type? Well, usually it's what you'd expect, and so I type equals, and then median. And it's a formula, it's a function, and it takes an argument, a single argument. So I type one parentheses, and the argument is going to be the entire column of data. And now I could type it in, it would be B2 colon B51, but I hate to type. And I like using the mouse, so instead I'll use the mouse. So I click the first cell, and then this is something you should be familiar with other Microsoft applications. I move it to the last cell, and then I press the Shift key and click, the so-called shift click operation. Okay? And then you'll notice that it put in the correct formula, and then I close parentheses, and I'll have my median. So you all should try that. and I'll do it again. So I'll just undo what I did so that I can redo it again. So I typed equals, and then median, left parentheses, and then I want to put in the data. So one way is to type it. I'll type it this time. So I'll go B2 colon B51, close parentheses, hit the enter key, and I got what I want. Now let's say that I wanted to do median, but I was really timid and I was afraid to type median. Well, then I'm really scared to do a full-blown help menu because that'll just make it feel even worse. So what you need to do a little bit of self-help. You go up to the function paste command, which is right up here. It's right next to a sigma key, which of course does the sum function. But I go there and I click on that, and it gives me a menu of all of Excel's things. If I click on statistical, and I can just scroll through it until I see something that looks right, click on it, and it'll describe it, and sure enough, median is what I want. It turns out that if you try to do a median, MEAN won't work. You have to use average in Excel, which is really a stupid feature. That's the truth. Anyway, let's go back and do this again. So I go equals median, left parentheses, click, move down to the bottom, shift click, close parentheses, and voila, I got it. Okay, so you have that median. Now let's get the median for the other two kinds of professors. So one of the beauties of Excel is that you can do sort of dynamic copying of formulas in an intelligent way. You move the mouse to the lower right-hand corner of your formula cell until it becomes a black cross, and then you drag. That's what I call the black cross drag. I mean, it sounds sort of ominous. Like something happened, during the plane or something. But, and you drag, and then you let go. And what it does is, if we now click on some of those other cells, say click on this one here, you'll notice that it's the same formula, but the B became a D. Type escape to get rid of that. Double click on this one, and it's the same thing with C. Okay. What's happening is when you drag a cell that has a formula in it, the addresses in the cell will change. If they're columns and you move to the right, the column will increment. If it's rows and you move down, the rows will increment. And that's great unless you don't want that to happen. Then it's not great. So let's make it not happen. So to go back to here, and there's my formula. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, see, notice how the mouse is clicking right at the B2 here. I'm going to drag and select those cells. Okay, they're selected. So if I were to type something new, it would change them. But I'm not going to type something new. I'm going to hit the F4 key on the top of the screen, F4. This is a little trick. I only learned about this year. And what it did was it put dollar signs in. If I hit it again, it put dollar signs in front of the numbers. If I hit it again, it put dollar signs in front of the letters. If I hit it again, it goes back to where it started. What this is doing is it's cycling through the 4 different flavors of addressing a cell. Without any dollar signs, it's purely relative. In other words, if you drag it, it changes. With dollar signs in front of both the column and the rows, it's purely absolute. If I were to drag this, it would stay pristine. For example, let's try dragging this formula now. And you can always type in the dollar signs behind it, drag it over. I just kept hitting the F4 key as a toggle. I'll do it again. Then I hit the Enter key to be done with what to evaluate the cell. Okay, so notice when I drag this now, it stayed the same. So I'll Control C, get back to where it was. And I'm going to do a Control C again because you can keep on doing it. Now I have nothing. Okay, so I'll start back again. So let's say for some weird reason we wanted to have absolute cells in here, so I go median, parentheses, B2, and then I decide, oh no, I want the B2 to be absolute, so I just type the B2, I'll hit the F4 key. Just saves me those dollar signs. It's really hard to type those dollar signs. And then I say, oh no, I don't want it to be totally absolute. I want to be able to drag the rows, but I don't want the columns to drag, which is false. I really don't want this. But let's just say it did colon B52, and then I say, oh no, I want that to be a little different too. I want that to be fully absolute. So I hit the F4 key and made it absolute. So now I have this silly formula, which if I drag it, what will happen? Actually, not, it will be just as if it was full, it will be, the B2 will turn into a C2, but the B52 won't change at all if I drag it over. So let's just see that. Whoops, what did it say? It said cannot copy the formula. Click OK, what did I do wrong? By accident. I did something weird. Whenever something weird happens, I try to ignore it if I can help it. B2 colon B52. For some reason, it thinks there's something self-referential about it. Do you see what the error is? I found the error. What's wrong? Forget about dollar signs. What's grossly wrong with my formula? Here, I'll double click on it. I'll zoom the screen and double click on it. It refers to B52, and what is B52? Cell. I meant to say B51. Okay, sorry about that. And there is the correct answer there, but if I drag it over just one, it gives me this weird formula. If we look at it, it's B2 to C51, because the B2 was absolute and the other one was not absolute. Okay. So let's make this smaller again and go back to the useful thing we wanted to do, which was median. B2 to B51. And notice how it's usually fast to use the mouse. I didn't do any typing there. And then hit the enter key to get it. And then black cross drag it over. And then down below, I could go equals average, and same cells, and hit the enter to make it happen, and then do a black cross drag. And all of us being statistics teachers, none of us are surprised that the means are greater than the medians. You might be kind of depressed to see why, and I'll just say Harvard, Caltech, MIT, they'll tell you why. Duke is not so bad, but Duke's kind of shabby compared to, say, Caltech there. Okay, so formulas of this sort are really, really easy to use. Now let's do the fun stuff, which is to create pictures. So it will blow your mind how easy it is to create at least simple charts. For example, let's see if we just wanted to have a chart of all comparing, say, these 12 schools about salary. And you want it to be exactly the kind of chart you'd like. Okay? All right, timing. Okay, ready, set, go. All right, how's that for a pretty good first attempt? Okay. The only thing that's not so good is that the labels of the colleges are a little bit hard to read because they're at a funny angle, and that's so. What do you do? That you click on it and you format the alignment and make the alignment be neutral. Okay, so, and now you'll notice this is a homework worksheet. It has a label that says chart 1 on the bottom. It came from Professor Salary, and I was able to make a chart instantaneously. So what did I do? Okay. What I did was very simple. I selected the data, and then I hit, I don't know why it's this, but I hit the F11. F11 means make a default column chart out of your data and try to do it as intelligently as possible. And notice how intelligent it was. It realized there were 3 data series. It assumed that, and that the data series had titles: assistant professor, associate professor, full professor, which would then go into the legend. And then it figured that this stuff here was the x-axis label. It did all that because if we click the chart, we can see that's what it did. Okay. Now you'll notice that we're not seeing all of the names of the universities here, and that's because we made them be horizontal. If we made them be vertical, then maybe that would be better. There. Okay, how did I do that? I double-click the thing I was interested in, and then I go, and it instantly takes me to a format. Do you have this chart on your screen right now? try getting the chart and then try just fiddling with it. So it's 2 minutes, like change the color of something, change the font of something. I'll come around and help you, and then we'll talk a little bit more about more elaborate sorts of charts. The black dots are the, I think this is means here. Oh, no, these aren't means, these are means of each university, yeah. But if you dump it, it'll be on the polls or something.
That's what I
So you.
So it's a bigger range.
Yes, it is, for most of them it is, yeah. Okay, I can see a lot of people have been able to embed the chart in the worksheet itself, which is often an attractive thing to do. So let's talk about that. All right, we have a chart in the worksheet. How do we, a chart in its own worksheet, how do we put it somewhere else? Well, there's 2 logical things to do. At this point, you should start getting into the habit of, don't listen to my specific advice, just listen to my advice about how you figure it out on your own. It's a chart, we want to move it, okay? We could, don't go to the help menu first off. Look at the other menus and think about which ones are appropriate. Well, the 2 things that, to my mind, are the most appropriate for moving a chart would be edit, because that's more like moving things, or chart itself. And if you go to chart itself, go to location, well, it gives you the option. Do you want it as a new sheet? No, it is already a new sheet. Do you want it as an object in the silly data worksheet? No, we want it as an object in the profit salary worksheet. Click on OK, and it moves into the new worksheet. Where then it's like any other kind of graphic that you've dealt with before. You can drag it and move it and so on. So. Now, some of you have already done this. You might think, okay, let's, the column chart is the default of Excel, but maybe we want something that's a little different. So we go to the chart menu, and we have all these options and things. Let's try a different chart type. We have all these different possibilities. Why don't we try a line chart? And it gives some options. We click. And sure enough, we get something that's also pretty useful form. And you can experiment with bad chart forms too. You go back to the chart menu, chart type, and let's try to make a pie chart out of this. We'll probably get garbage. That's okay. Yeah, we got garbage, as far as I can tell. Well, what do you do now? Let's try Control-Z. Do it again. It goes back even further. Control-Z it remembers a lot of things. Okay, well, we're kind of running out of time. I want to just zip through one more thing, and then if you want to practice some of this on your own, feel free to do so. Will these computers be available like in the evening or not? I mean, this room is like usually open, right?
No.
No?
No. This room is got blocked.
Yeah.
How do you find the mean and all this control data?
You mean not just in college?
The frequency, no, the data frequency.
Oh, we have a frequency table. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'll talk about that in the next session. I'll show you how to do histograms and frequency tables. Yeah. So let's do a quick pie graph. So click to the crime data. Okay. And
You can do this, you can change this without going out of anything, is that correct? You just change the
when I move to a different
version
version.
tab and you just...
Yeah, because I haven't, until I hit the save key, I haven't, the workbook is the unit, the workbook is my file. So I'm just like moving to a different page of the book. Yeah. So I haven't lost anything, and I can go back and forth. And then you can use the control arrow keys, I think, to control page up, control and page up and page down, move through the tabs. So that's sometimes useful, but not terribly useful. Anyway, I'm in the crime data. It's up here. Now, the obvious kind of pie chart to make, say, for the year 1980, say, would be be to look at the proportions of different crimes in 1980. So some simple pie chart would involve this column and this column. But let's do this column and this column in 1990, just a tiny bit more challenge. So what needs to be selected is this thing here, because we're going to need that for our legend titles. And then this data here, and you might know from using other Microsoft applications that we now don't do shift click, but we go control click, and then drag down. Okay, that's for selecting non-contiguous data. So get that non-contiguous data selected. And then anytime you're going to do it, now you could do a default column chart for this, and that would work fine. You know, it would look like what you'd expect. But a pie chart is really better. So to do a pie chart from scratch, we go to the chart wizard, which is this icon here that looks like a chart and says chart wizard. And then you click on it, and you get a dialog box, which then, and just all, the only thing to remember about Excel is dialog boxes are, they're trying to communicate with you. Just give the computer a little respect and listen to what it's asking. So it's saying what chart type, pie chart. What subtype? Well, this subtype looks fine, that subtype looks fine, this subtype, they all look fine. Let's just choose the default. And then we look at that, and that already looks pretty much like what you'd expect it to look like. It tells you the data range, and if at this point you didn't like it, you'll notice the data range has a comma, because it's non-contiguous. It also tells you the worksheet attached to it, the prime worksheet. Let's continue on. Do we want, and then it gives you all, we could give it a title. It asks, do you want a legend? Well, do we want a legend? Sure. The legend is actually extremely important. And then next to data labels, maybe a common thing with a pie chart is to have percentages next to the data, and hopefully we can do that. And sure enough, it says under the data labels tab, show percent. Let's do that. And if we want to, we can show the value as well, not just the value. Let's just show the percent. That's probably more useful. And then we're done, I think. We could put the legend next to label, but that's not necessary. You know, you just experiment. Now, go here, and then we want it as a new sheet or as an object. We want it as an object. We want it in Excel. And then we get, with pie charts, we often have to resize it. We get this thing that's a little too small. So you just, do this thing until it looks right. Usually takes a while. A long while. In fact, let's give ourselves more space. Well, at this point, you might wonder, well, gosh, what's messing us up? Why are we using so much junk? What's bad about it? What would improve things? So what's crowding us out? All those percentages and all the letters, it's the font. The font is just so darn good. We don't need such a big font. I don't know why the font is good. Maybe because I had zoomed screen and it just memorized the zoom. So what do? I'll just try to change the format. Go in there, and I hope, I just went to format, and it said format chart area. Let's try the font. Whoa, it's 37.5, 75 is the size. Let's go to 10. 10 is fine. Click OK. There. Again, don't memorize the sequence, just memorize the idea. When you don't like something, make sure it's selected and go to the appropriate venues that might solve your problem, and they probably will. Okay, this should be enough to get you to the point where you should be able to at least play confidently. And I should shut up now and give you a chance to rest, and if some of you want to come back to the next session and focus on more statistically oriented things. And if not, if you'd like to pick up the statistics thing and work on it on your own, you're more than welcome. So, thanks a lot.
You changed the access to the label.
So double click the label, the axis, and then it's the alignment option. Do you have any questions or? So I think we're running a little.
I think we're all set. Next session starts at 4:15, and you have the options in your program. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
cut it up, like you do the whole thing, right? Click on the chart.
Yeah, a lot of these things, you know, I don't remember how they work just fine. Yeah, experimental, yeah.
Right click.
The manuals are impossible, and even a good manual is bad. I mean, you know, the best way, it really is a well-designed program, and the best way is just to have the right experiment. If I really need
Where did he
something
find
tomorrow, you call me.
Grab experiment?
You don't.
Okay, you can start up here,
The way I
grab
work.
wizards, right here.
So 5 years.
And then you can go through it, select it, yes, it'll just take it to
Well,
each
this is
step.
97, and I have Office 98 on the Mac Pro, which is supposed to be, but it also has errors, it has bugs that delete a couple of things, yeah, they're not bad bugs. Thank you. And, if you want to come back to the next session, you want to, if you don't want to, if you want to pick up some of the stuff and do it on your own, that's also about that.
Paul, tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock,
Yes.
the room downstairs, 106, will be open for people to come in and try things like
Also,
that.
okay, and I'll be up here as well.
You'll be up here having a class.
Right, although my class will mostly be people
Intermediates, I think.
working in, sort of,
Okay, but if somebody wants to, is not coming to that, or wants to go to
and they'll start at 11?
That's it from 11 to 12.
Okay, that's great. Oh, for doing 3D?
Yeah, I've been accused of words.
Oh, yes,
For
yes.
words. You mean the student desk? Yeah, that's, I go on hard to get those in.
Play around.
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, because they screwed it up when they installed them, because they're supposed to take these bases off the bottom, and they didn't. No, they didn't, that's why they tip up so sharply.
But this is slight angle because you can see.
It's not supposed to be quite that stiff, that's the angle, it's supposed to lay down.
Yeah.
They're supposed to fit, and they pivot face out, and they didn't. I can't tell you off the top, I can find out for you, give it to you tomorrow, sure. But, this is like furniture,
This is really nice.
oh, I think these are my favorite desks because they go for the students to work. And now my classes, when I was in here, around here, for example, if you want to use, you want to have your stat class in here part of the time, you have to schedule your stat class in all semester. You can't get it Tuesday afternoon and next Friday and the following Wednesday, you have to.
We have the dedicated in my
Of course, this is a classroom, this isn't a lab, this is a classroom. But I like this setup, because if they're not working, they got a desktop. Take tests here.
Now,
Okay, even as close as
and now,
this is, they can take
now the
tests.
bottom pane.
and nobody sees it.
Yeah, you've got it. This takes
One way to do
the
that.
glare,
Another way to
see,
do
it
that.
hides the screen under there.
This is nice. What is
This is my favorite, they're supposed to have one come in, and there's supposed to be a few more who come to finish these. But the big thing is, instead of being on the tabletops like this, the student walks on in
And
the
the
bag,
cable,
in
they
the
might
back,
put the
book
cable.
bag. You just see what's gonna happen, all those connections, and somebody walks through with a big old book bag over their shoulder.
All the cables are, they can be put by them.
When you
I
select
mean, so they get bumped down here a little bit, but not nearly as bad.
No.
it's either real.
Like now, in my place, I have computer and I have similar like this. If I get the vendor address,
I'll find out who the
and
vendor
I'll tell
is.
this guy because this is nice setup.
Select it and then double click.
But you have
Here,
it says only have a few.
Show
You see that? Yeah.
Well,
Then
when we got the money for this room by a private donation.
probably another way.
Why?
Whereas here, you find that.
Okay, and we started to put something, and we ran out of money, we didn't have enough money to give the room. So what we did is we designed the room, we laid it out, and we got as far as we could. The software that's in here is this mediated learning academic systems
And
algorithm.
you'll let me remember these little things that you like forget.
Partially algebra, non-partially statistics. Oh, for a year, a whole year, it's been nothing but algebra.
If you want
So it
to.
hasn't been accessible to get a projector, it hasn't been, we want to finish it as a teaching classroom, because it's,
Yeah, you should probably exit, yeah.
I'm bring my chair for the next time.
to me, it's a total, different purpose of what we're here, as a land kind of setup.
So,
It's a teaching classroom. It's the functions that go on, there can be different.
very top.
Because that's
and
even
then you
about-
select those that try it. Moving on to the very
Lots
top.
of ways around here, right? You got everything set up. I see, right?
Here you go. Now we're at it. Top very halfway.
I think it's implementation, not
Doesn't matter where you go.
Oh, yeah. No, there's a big one out
Are you using this?
I'm using- This might be
We'll see the-
Yeah, tomorrow.
So take them down so that
They don't have a spreadsheet.
Then I got it.
Yeah, take.
No, it's my responsibility.
Yeah, great, okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, I noticed you also wrote the tour, which is really more advanced than what this would be.
Well, the tour, I did it out of your book.
Right, yeah,
With
yeah.
the suggestions.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And I have a couple dozen of your book.
Right, so that's a very compact, yeah, okay.
Right.
We'll do it both ways and shoot the
Great.
We do.
So what is the advantage of this tonight?
I think the big advantage is that you can see it straight,
Right, so you get, I see.
but I think it's also supposed to be.
When you see my friends,
so that you're not, you see a folder like that.
Oh, I'll see, you see what the keyboard can be pulled out. You can write it and you'll get it yellow. Now, what about mine? See, mine needed a login name.
I would like to introduce to you Dr. Paul Seitz. He's here to help us with Excel and how we can help us in the classroom. Dr. Paul Seitz.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Some of you were here an hour ago, but I'll say the same spiel I did then, which is, well, I work at the University of San Francisco, and since about 1993, we've had a general ed statistics course, where we're forcing all the freshmen to take statistics, and we pretty much teach it we've sort of alternated between using the Utz book or the Moore book or combining it, but it's at that level. And we've also been committed to using the computers extensively. The students have computer homework almost every week, meet in a computer lab 1 hour a week, etc. And we use Excel, and we're very happy with how it went. A colleague of mine and I wrote a textbook on using Excel with statistics, which I think is an okay book, but it's not. But if you're not interested in using Excel in a classroom, I would not suggest that you buy it because it's too slow paced for a math teacher. It's good for math students, but not for math teachers. But it might have some good ideas. And what I've done is I've really summarized the book in just about 10 pages. And in my opinion, this 10 pages is, if you're interested in just thinking about using Excel in a statistics course and you haven't thought about it much, it'll give you some good ideas and maybe some inspiration. And certainly you'll want to move on and do things, use your own creativity. We're not going to go through the whole 11 pages in this hour, but I hope that you have time to work on some of this on your own. Since some of you are more expert with Excel than others, the way that I figure this hour is going to go is I'm going to briefly start running through the contents of this. So I'll be lecturing. And you can choose to either move along with me or just watch what I'm doing, or just completely work on your own if you want, if you think you can work at a better pace. The first thing we need to do is retrieve some of the software we're going to use. There's some Excel workbooks as well as some Excel add-ins that we're going to be using. They're located in the M drive. So if you go to Open Files and you go to, it says D users on MCC3 and then it says in parentheses parentheses M colon. That's the M drive. And then you go to the courses folder. And then you go to the MTH for math. And then you go to beyond the formula. And then you go to Excel. And then there's all kinds of things in there. What you should open right now is the file called descriptive statistics.
Could you go through that sequence one more time?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so you go to it's the M colon. Okay, D it's the M drive. D users on MCC3.
This was under the file folder?
You do open file. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's the courses folder. And then in the courses folder, it's the math folder. And inside the math folder is the beyond formula folder. And in there is Excel. Okay. If you've got it and your neighbor hasn't, show it to your neighbor. If you haven't got it, I'll come around and help you. So who needs help in getting there? And then we'll get you there. Okay, so let's say M drive. See where in parentheses. Courses. Okay, all the other files will be coming from that directory, so you'll stay in that directory. Okay. Look here.
No. I was just trying to get
You open from the Explorer? Yeah. Okay.
Now.
Okay. Does everybody have it, or leave it? Once we get to this step, then everything will move smoothly. Okay, so and then beyond formula. Okay, and then Excel. And then descriptive statistics. Descriptive statistics. Descriptive stat. Okay. Right, so the overall plan for this hour is I'm going to move through fairly quickly because my idea is not for you to gain mastery of each of these things, but to just get exposed to it because the way you'll learn about it, the only way you learn about it is by playing around, messing around on your own. And this yellow sheet plus the appropriate files is really sufficient for you to do it on your own time. So I'm going to give you a quick tour guide and you can pay attention or completely work at your own pace. But what I've put together are 5 what I call modules, which are just sort of statistical areas where in a classroom I use some of these Excel-based activities not as a substitute for the ordinary class. There'd be a bunch of other things going on, but a certain portion of class time might go to either a demonstration where the teacher is doing stuff and the students are just watching, or lab work where the teacher is doing something in a room like this and the students are also doing it, or independent lab work where the students have learned enough Excel to be given some open-ended or non-open-ended problems where they're doing stuff on their own and it's due in a week. And so each of these modules, you can think of them as something that might use up a week or 2 of class time and using it for part of the class time. And the topics are just sort of basic descriptive statistics, and then the graphical version, histograms and box plots, and then ideas about sampling, and then correlation regression, and also advanced topics like the central limit theorem. The reason why we like to use Excel is because it's easy to do things quickly. You can quickly do computations and have it in really easy to see forms, and you can also create charts really easily. And I assume if you're here that you already know the rudiments of formulas and charts. And if you haven't and you want some more practice, I have from the session I did before Excel for beginners, I have a little explanatory as well. The things that Excel is bad at, though, is a few of of the things that we like to do in a lot of the statistics classes, like histograms and sampling, Excel's really bad at. Excel can do it, but it does it in a way that's really unpleasant. And so one of the things that we did at USF was to develop some Excel add-ins that automate the process and make it a lot more user-friendly. Our products are not great, but they're a big improvement over what comes with Excel itself. I'll give you some demonstrations of that, and you'll be able to download these add-ins and use them on your machines as well. Can they keep it? Or is it copyrighted?
You can keep it using it, just can't sell it.
Okay, so don't be a pirate. Okay,
Yeah, they can't load it like on the lab.
right, don't use it at your university. Yeah. If you do, in yes.
I have Excel in my office, but do I have to order the package from the Excel or this is already there by Excel?
All of the Excel comes with lots of statistical features, tons of them, and so you have them already. What you don't have are 2 or 3 little add-ins that I wrote. Those you get if you buy the book that I wrote. I'm not trying to advertise my book here, but I'm saying I'll show you a few things that are. I'll tell you what is my stuff versus what's plain old Excel stuff. So you'll know what you have with your Excel at home. Okay, so one of the fun activities that many of us, I'm sure, do in our classes is to do a class survey and gather the information. This is just one example of that. And so a typical computer-based exercise, which really requires hardly any explanation, is collect some simple data and do some of the most basic descriptive statistical analysis of it. And so what this worksheet here, the student data worksheet, has in the shaded yellow cells are sort of my indication to you of stuff that you would probably develop in a classroom. In other words, you'd start out without this stuff, and you'd make it, or you'd make your students make it. And so one of the first things we would talk to, we have a discussion about things. What is an average? What does it mean to be an average girl in Section 5? What does it mean to be an average person in Section 5? What does it mean what's the average weight? What do we mean by average? And develop ideas of the average, median, mode. And so in this worksheet, we calculated the formulas for some of these things. And I'm assuming that for all of you, you know how to do that. So, but just to give you a quick demonstration, this is a review from last hour. So in here, height in inches, say. What we like is the third quartile of the height in inches. Well, how do we do that? Well, we use the quartile function. And if you don't know the quartile function, you go up to the function wizard or whatever it's called, the case function, you browse around for hoping that Excel has a quartile function. And it does. If we just click on here and think, gosh, I sure hope Excel has a quartile function. We click statistical, and then go in here, type the letter Q, and sure enough, the very first thing we get is quartile, and it tells us how to do it. It says the syntax is quartile, parentheses, array, comma, worked. Okay, and now we can do a little experimentation, and it can ask us to paste it in here, but I hate that. I have to do it on my own. So if I were to go in, if you were to, I'll just double click the formula, you can see it. Maybe you can't increase the size. That's too much increase. There we go. Equals quartile, parentheses, D7 colon D42, comma 3. So the syntax is quartile, and then it's followed by the data using the typical notation of colons or whatever, comma 3 because it's a third quartile. And I hit Control C a few times to go back to what I was doing. How about 80th percentile? Well, what do you think the 80th percentile formula would look like? Even if you've never used it before, even if your only exposure to Excel was just last hour, what do you think the syntax would be for this here? It would be equals percentile, G7 colon G42, comma, either 80 or 0.80. You try one won't work, you try the other, it does work. And Sure enough, it's G7, G42, comma, okay. Almost all of the basic statistical formulas are in Excel, and they're very intuitive, they're easy to use. Likewise, standard deviation is STDEV, and there's also standard deviation, or there's STDEVP and STDEV without a P for population or fleet if you're doing it. So it's sophisticated that way. One quirk about Excel is that mean does not mean it's average. That's one of its failings. Median and mode are exactly what you think they are. And then a very useful thing is for doing very simple data filtering. So, for example, let's say we wanted to count the women in our list. Well, men are 1 and women are 2 in this list here. So to count the women, we use the countif command. And the countif command looks like this. Equals countif, then the data we're interested in, comma, 2. So it counts the things in this, in F7 to F42, which are the number 2, and that gives us the number of women.
Do you use numbers because it can only have numbers, not
No.
or something?
No, in fact, that's an excellent question. In fact, one of the little homework exercises that comes along with this would be if we scrolled to the billionaires page here. And here we have a survey of the world's 235 billionaires and their age and their wealth and the region coded with the letter M for Middle East, U for USA, A for Asia, E for Europe. If we could do a count if with text, the only difference is that M will be in quotes. So, and that's something. In fact, actually, here I have a filter done. I have a filter done here, not using counting, but using the if function. While we're at it, let's discuss the if function. So, for example, in here, what I did was I wanted to filter out American billionaires, and so they are all the ones with the letter A. And so what I did, I started off with this cell here, double clicking it. Can you all read from back there? So what it says is that the command says if cell C3, in other words, the region cell, is equal to quote U unquote, comma A3, comma quote quote. This is a fairly advanced function, but it's really very logical, and I documented it in the green handout there. The way it works is if is followed by a Boolean expression that's either true or false, and then it's followed by 2 executable expressions, one for true, one for false. So the Boolean expression is C3 equals U, with quotes. So if C3 equals U, then what we execute is the value of A3, namely that person's wealth. Otherwise, we go quote, quote, which means we print out nothing. Okay? And now notice carefully how the dollar signs work. This formula, I have a dollar sign in front of the C, which means if I drag to the right, the C doesn't change. Because we're only interested in knowing what's true about the C. If we drag to the right, we don't want it to turn into the D. On the other hand, we would like the A3 to turn into the B3 because we'd like to put the person's age over there. So all I need to do is type a single formula, and then I can drag over. Okay, and that's a good thing to see. Let's replay that whole process. So let's say I typed in the formula. Okay, it's in there and it's showing nothing, but it's the correct formula. Well, then I drag it over here, and it's again showing the correct thing. Then what I do is I shift click all the way to the bottom. I could do a black cross graph, but it's a split screen. So I won't do that. I'll shift click, select it all, and then in the edit menu, I do what's called a fill down. And again, this is documented, so don't worry about how fast I'm going. You can, at your own pace, learn this and learn to do it quite effectively. I fill down the form. That's how it's created. It's the same as doing a black cross graph, but it's a little cleaner when it's split screen. I have 235 rows. Okay.
How did you get to the billionaire part of the?
That's a different worksheet in our workbook, and so I was just tabbing over it, and it was all the way at the end. I could have also used this tab here against the end of it. This tab's end, beginning, and this tab separate ones, and also control page down and control page up move along the tabs. I learned that the other night, and I actually learned that from a help menu, believe it or not. Otherwise, I always used the mouse. There was a specialty that worked with Mac that didn't work with Windows. So I have a Mac. It doesn't matter if you use a Mac or a PC, except morally. As my uncle told me during the baseball strike, you have to support the millionaires against the billionaires. but these are political issues which we don't need to get into. Okay, so this is very, very quick, a very, very quick overview of typical descriptive statistics things, and then the next few worksheets, bias, honesty questions, high school GPA, involve sort of clever subsets of this data which allow students to easily ask very interesting questions about survey design and answer them very quickly with the computer. And the beauty of it is it's so easy to do this fast. It takes some of the tedium out of the calculation part and it lets the students concentrate more on the concepts. Once the overhead of using the computer is out of the way, and as you can tell, especially if you're a beginner, there is this overhead. And it typically takes a couple of weeks of a lot of cursing and a lot of crying on the part of the students before they become really pretty confident. And they do become confident if they take this seriously. And once they're confident, they can do a lot of things really very quickly. So those next few things are just for exercises in that front. But now let's talk about things like histograms. So let's go back to student data. Okay. Now, if you want to use the histogram program on your machine, you need to download it. This is not built into Excel. This is one of our customized things, and it's in the same file place. Just go to File, Open, and it should be in that Excel thing. And you might as well open all three of the add-ins that you'll be using. One is called boxplot.xla. Okay, and then you can also use the control key for non-contiguous selection, smarthistogram.xla, and also srs.xla. I already have the histogram on there, so I'm only selecting boxplot and SRA. So select all three and then open them, and what it's going to do is it'll give you a message about, do you want these macros? And just say enable macros if you want them. And it will give you this extra functionality. And you'll know you have the extra functionality if in the tools menu at the bottom, it lists the three different add-ins, Smart Histogram, Boxplot, and SRS. So again, to go through those steps again, go back to the File menu, go to Open, and back in that Excel folder, select Boxplot, and then with Control, click, select Smart Histogram, and also SRS with the Control, click, and then open all three, and you should have these extra functionalities. Add this functionality. And again, to make sure you have it to see it in the tools. Okay. There's also keystrokes that come with these, except one of them doesn't work with Excel 97 for a reason I have absolutely no idea. It just is, so to do the histogram, you have to use the tool menu. For Boxplot, if you hit Control capital B, and for SRS, Control capital S will work. I guess those were not reserved. Control capital S was reserved. So capital S, Control capital S for this, Control capital D for this, and this you just use the mouse. And these are all very user-friendly. Let me give you an example. Let's say we want to do a quick histogram of everybody's height. So I select the data, I go click, and then shift click. That's your typical move for selecting a lot of data. And then just go right in there, do a histogram. And I call it Smart Histogram because it's fairly user-friendly and smart enough to make good initial guesses about pretty data. You don't have to worry about the bins yourself. So first, it allows you to double check, is this the data you want to guess it was? And then you get a dialog box which gives you a lot of useful options. First of all, it tells you what the actual minimum and maximum of your data is, which you obviously want to know. And then it suggests what the frequency bins are going to look like. It suggests that it will start with 0, have a bin width of 7, and finish with a bin width of 77. And that's probably okay, but if we would like to label our bins in the midpoint, which is the default, probably want integers, so let's change the 7 to a 6. Okay. So then, our midpoints will have fractions. And then it also tells you exactly how the population works. So the left boundary of each bit is included, and the right boundary is not. So you'll know exactly what's what. If we wish, we could include a normal curve approximation or a frequency polygon, but you usually don't want to do that. And then we just click on OK, and we get a histogram. And then we get a dialog box saying, do you want to keep the current histogram sheet? Notice the word sheet because it created a separate sheet called histogram 1, separate to our data. We can choose to move it into our data sheet later, but right now it's a separate sheet. And let's say yes. But also you'll notice that you probably want a more elaborate histogram because it looks like you'd like to divide the data a little more finely. So let's click on, so let's say no, we don't want this histogram. But it says, do you want to draw another histogram? Let's say yes. And now let's just change the bin width. Or let's change the start. Should the start be 0? No. Again, if you're doing this with the class, this forces the class to think, why did it give 0? It gave 0 because there were some weird outliers, namely that somebody put 0 for their height. It was just a sheer mistake. We could start legitimately with the start value, say maybe 50. Okay, and then the tab key allows you to move around. This does almost any of the software. Bin width of 4 maybe is better, and then if we hit the enter key, we'll get a nice looking histogram. And let's say no, we don't want to make any more histograms. So now we have a decent looking histogram, and it comes with a frequency table attached to it. Okay. Those of you who like to play around with frequency tables on your own, I think I got a question about that earlier. The command is frequency. Read about it in that function paste thing and experiment. It's a little bit tricky because it involves, the problem is the frequency has, the input is an array and its output is an array. So it's a little bit more advanced. You might even need to use an helper to read about using arrays. It's a little bit tricky. But this automates the process, and so you rarely need to do it on your own because we have built-in frequency tables right behind the histogram itself. And we can take this histogram which is already selected, and we can do a copy, and then move back to, say, student data, and then click and do a paste, and we get our histogram back to the student data. And one of the nice things about this histogram program, in contrast to the way histograms are done in normal Excel, is that this is fully interactive. In other words, this is live. It's a live chart wizard object. So if we were to change the data, for example, if we were to take one of these heights and say, take this 0 height person who's not included in the histogram right now, and make that person be 73 inches high, the histogram reflects the change. Did you see that? See, I'll undo it. There, if we have a 0 height person, they're not in the histogram. If we make them be 6'1", they're gonna top off this column here and show what they do. Okay, so this is a very nice histogram that is truly dynamic. For example, think about just how easy it would be to do the central limit theorem, especially if you do random numbers in Excel, which you can. And you can have histograms related to random numbers, which you can then recalculate instantaneously and really see hundreds of different examples of variation. Okay, so along with the histogram program is a box plot program. Works just pretty much the same kind of dialog box. I won't go through that right now because this is really pretty user-friendly. I want to move on to the idea of doing sampling. And so for sampling, I want to open another workbook which is called sampling. So why don't you do that as well? And it says that it has references to another workbook, and just say no. I don't understand what this problem is. It's something how it's created. Just ignore, say no when you get that dialog box. So if you open sampling, you'll get this really boring looking table. There's a lot of controversy about using a computer for sampling. I know that Moore really thinks it's a bad idea, and he prefers, like using birds with real balls and things. And I think both approaches are good. I think if you only do computer simulation, your students will probably zone out and not really believe you. But if you do some physical simulations and combine them with some computer simulations, I think then the students will be ready to believe you. The good thing about computer simulations is you do a lot more, a lot faster, repeated So what this is here is just a matrix of zeros and ones. And I should mention how I created it. I created it using the random number command. So let me just, as an aside, just do some random numbers here. And this is all documented elsewhere. But if I were to type the function equals rand parentheses, parentheses, and then hit the enter key, I get a random number between 0 and 1. If I were to black cross drag it, and then black cross drag it some more, I get a whole matrix of random numbers between 0 and 1. And now you can just think, it doesn't take long to think about all kinds of wonderful things you can do with that. You can recalculate the entire sheet with the F9 key. Shift F9 recalculates the sheet. F9 recalculates everything everywhere, which you might not want to do with a lot of random numbers. So if I go Shift F9, if I need to hit enter, so go Shift F9. So there, you can see this is flipping a lot of coins, okay? So if I were to, instead of have a random command and include an if command, we can say if the random number, say, is less than 0.5, comma, 1, otherwise 0, close parentheses. Well, we got ourselves a point simulator, a fair point simulator. And it's just as easy to create an unfair point simulator. So that's how I created this table. But then there's no formulas in here because I wanted this to have exactly 50% heads or 50% black. So what I did was I copied it using the normal copying, and then I pasted it to itself. But when you paste, I didn't use regular paste, I used special paste. Namely, I pasted the values rather than the formula. And that's a useful command, which you don't use too often, but sometimes you use it. So here it's just numbers. So it's special paste, not regular paste. Anyway, I have, what is it, 2,000 beads, of which exactly 1,000 are black and 1,000 are white. Now let's sample them. The way you do it is select the data, shift, click, question, and then go to the sampling add-in or use control capital S, and it will do a simple random sample. And it gives you options, how many samples, how big they should be, and whether they're sampling with replacement or not. We'll say no replacement, so we'll really simulate taking stuff out of the learning. If we wanted to do like in a classroom demo, we do 1. But since we have the power of the computer, let's do 50 of size 33. Why 33? Because that was the default that the program computer figured out was a reasonable number. But who cares? We're just playing here. And you quickly get all your samples, and you also get it in a nicely split format so you can look at them. And now what are you going to do with this stuff? Well, you're going to average them or add them up. Do histograms of the results. Voila, central limit theorem. Okay? Now this is not something you do quickly with the class. But if you did this, if you develop these ideas slowly, you can really approach ideas such as the central limit theorem. I'm not saying this would be all you do with the central limit theorem. This might be a very nice supplement to other kinds of discussions you want to use. Likewise, this is a very good way to simulate the sample variation or mean, or sample proportion variation or sample mean variation. The possibilities are endless, as long as you know there's a tool like this that works. And the Excel that comes normally does have sampling, but it takes a long, it's very hard to use. It's not, and you can only really do one sample at a time. It's really not user-friendly. So that's why I wrote this software. It is a very specific enhancement for Excel, specifically for teaching statistics and really for nothing else. Any questions so far?
Yeah. I suppose you covered this in your first element. How do you get the split screen?
Oh yes, a very important for big data. So one way is the window menu. You can either put a split in or remove it. Here it says remove split. So now this remove, if you go to the window menu and you split, it'll give you both top and bottom. Sometimes you don't want it, sometimes you just want top, vertical split or horizontal split. The way you do that is you move to the top of the scroll bar to where it's a little funny looking, and then move up and then move the mouse cursor until it becomes this funny looking thing, and then drag it like to the middle, and then you've got split. And then to get rid of it, you drag it back. Or move it to this thing and double-click the mouse. A general Excel metaphor is when you double-click something, it either will enhance it or do it. So you should experiment. Anytime you're looking at a new thing in Excel, double-click it just to see what happens. For example, if you have a chart and you don't like the axis, move the mouse to the axis and double-click it, and then you usually get into the dialog box to edit the axis. If you don't like the color of something, double-click it. And so on. Just experiment with double-clicking it, and also experiment with right mouse clicking. Again, if you look at my Excel for beginners, it mentions a few of these things, which are really important to just get out of the way, because then it just gives you the confidence to just do even more experiments. Any other questions? Okay, I want to move on to the final topic that I have here. I am really, really rushing, because, actually not really. Let me talk a little bit more about randomness and then correlation. I think I have about 7 more minutes. So let's open one more file. Randomness. And also open correlations. We'll use that next. And if they ask you to enable macros, say yes. Okay, use the window menu to move from workbook to workbook. And so let's go to the randomness one. Often when we talk probability at USF, we really like Moore. We don't always use Moore's book, but we like Moore's approach better than Hux's approach. And so in our typical curriculum, we always discuss sort of the relative frequency ideas and empirical ideas about probability, very little theoretical probability for our sort of non-honor sections. But one of the things we do, this is fairly late in the course, so the students are pretty adept at using Excel this week. Simulate a coin flip, and you know how to do that. And then we compute a running average of the values of the coin flip. What that is going to be doing, of course, is the empirical probability of heads. And then we do a line chart using the chart wizard. And then we can recalculate it again and again. So each time I'm hitting the F9 button, I'm doing another 500 coin tosses. And what it does is it trains the student's intuition to see that the relative frequency is tending towards 50%, but it's actually not tending terribly quickly to 50%. And some of the time it really does some horrendous things. You might notice that my axis never changes, and that's because I set it that way. If I double click on the axis here, go to the scale tab, this is one of those double click things. And the way I learned about it, frankly, was I just double clicked. I didn't read about it in the manual because I got so impatient. I felt so stupid reading the helps menus and the manuals that I just decided to try it on my own. And notice that the auto is not clicked. If I click auto, it will automatically try to make the chart have all the data. And if I try that and then if I redo it, I'll get it usually goes from 0 to 0.7 or something else. And that's sometimes more useful, sometimes not. Okay. But so each time you're hearing that little click, the computer is tossing 500 points and keeping the running average. You have to admit that that's faster than doing it in your class by hand. Even if it builds, a happy class, you can do the touchy-feely stuff, which I think is great for, you have them take their pulses and that sort of thing, but don't have them with a lot of points, they go crazy. The computer God made the computer for flipping coins. Anyway, okay. And once again, you should be able to think of all sorts of imaginative things you could do. You could output these things into a row of data and make a histogram of that, and what would it be? It would be normal, or close to normal. Again, another way to show the ubiquity of the central limit theorem. The rest of this randomness worksheet shows you how to does a dice simulation, which I think that it's not supporting the rand between function because we need to include another adding. Now, probably one of these two adders are always good to have at the very top of the analysis tool pack. I don't know what it does, but I think we have Here we've simulated a random walk, which is not that different from a point clip, but I have a line chart. To simulate that. And so this would be, like playing fair again. And then the last worksheet here is a central limit theorem idea, basically taking uniformly distributed data and then do sample means and making histograms of them and noticing how every time you do it, you get more points. I'm rushing because I want to move on to my very last topic, which is different. Again, you can take your time to read about these things and think about them on your own. Let's move to correlation. This is one of my favorite places to use Excel because I really find, I don't know about your students, but my students really have a lot of trouble really knowing what correlation means. And they shouldn't have trouble because correlation is very abstract and also it doesn't really mean a whole lot necessarily. And so what I think the only way to understand something like correlation is to be able to make lots and lots of scatter plots and draw lots and lots of regression lines. And so, as you can imagine, it's easy to do that with a computer. The way you do correlation, well, if you can double click on it, it's the command correl. And then it has the two data ranges, the X range, comma, and Y data. That's a very easy thing to use. To do it graphically, we use the, if we were to select the data, we go to the chart wizard, and instead of a column chart or a line chart, we do a scatter plot. And get rid of the legend. It's usually a long legend. And there's our scatter plot. And perhaps the only thing we want to do with this is adjust the axes. We really don't want the axis here to say from 0 to 100 since nobody is that short. And so we double click on it and change the minimum maybe to 40. Yeah. And do the same thing. Do the same thing for this one. And now we have a better looking scatter plot. Well, how do we get a regression line? Well, go to the, make sure you selected the chart by clicking on it. It'll have some like dots on it or something. Go to the chart menu, because it's a chart after all. Always, when you're dealing with a chart, make sure you get to know that chart menu. And, well, what do you think Excel calls a regression line? A trend line. Right? I mean, Excel does not always use technical data, but the trend line is really what it is. So. And then it gives you a bunch of options. We'll do linear. We never do anything but linear in our classes. And then we also can include as other options, display the equation and display the R squared. And that's a nice thing to have. And it's usually in the way. So we have to click on it and then move it around like we love it graphical objects. And that's a very fast process. And the nice thing is once you have this chart set up, for example, like if you look at say this worksheet here, which has random data. It has essentially purely random data. Once we have this set up, we can recalculate and look to see what the trend line is doing. It teaches your students something that even if there is no trend, you can still draw a trend line. That's a very nice thing to know about. But in the misleading correlation worksheet here, what I have here is data where it's almost all truly, correlation 1 with some confounding pollution, which you can change in real time. And the confounding pollution, look what it did to the correlation. It's not a lot of pollution, but look what happens to the correlation. And we can take the random correlation and do the same thing. We can take what's random and then include some confounding linearity into it. And suddenly we'll get some, so if you have some linear pollution, just a little bit of linear pollution in a, so if we were to say make this be 0 and drag a few and make them be 0 and then make a few of these be 100. And compute the correlation of this, you find that the correlation is suddenly jump to like where a psychology journal will say that there is an association going on, and where a person reading USA Today would be told that an association is going on. So again, being able to do these things quickly and easily is what makes this a great teaching tool. So anyway, if you're sold on this, play around with it. I really hope that you try some of these ideas out. I find that as long as there's some computers in the classroom and enough time to get the students started, that it really enhances their knowledge and allows for lots of entertainment in the classroom. Thanks a lot for your time, and you're welcome to keep working on this. On Friday morning, I'm going to have a session which really is just a continuation of this, but I'm not going to use any talk because I don't have much else. So you can just bring your questions. Working on either what's in here, or if you want more stuff, I have some more assignments. Depending on what.
Thank you very much. Very impressive demonstration. I'd like to invite all of you to go to the Terrace now for the evening program. To get there, you exit the door, make a right down the main hallway, you get to the end of the building, and then there's an outside door. And just follow along the building to the very next building on the left, and that will bring you to the terrace. Thank you very much, Paul.